Welcome back to Criminologist, where we dive deep into the most perplexing mysteries and unsolved cases from around the world. Today's story is not only heartbreaking, but riddled with confusion, contradictions, and lingering questions that remain unanswered to this very day. This is the case of Patrick Sean Kelly, an aspiring filmmaker, a young man with a bright future, and a life tragically cut short under mysterious circumstances. Was it an accident? Or was there something far more sinister at play? Let's dive in. Patrick Sean Kelly was a 22-year-old man studying at the University of Southern California, Los Angeles, California. Patrick was originally born into the Blood Indian tribe in Canada. However, he was placed into foster care when he was only 18 months old. He was adopted by Terry Kelly and lived in Alberta, Canada for most of his life. During his early teenage years, Patrick found love for writing and storytelling. While in high school, Patrick decided to become a filmmaker, and in 1993, he was accepted into the USC Film School Undergraduate Screenwriting Division, a highly competitive program that accepts only 24 students worldwide. He spent next 3 years studying at the university, and friends and teachers believed he was a star on the rise. For his final year project, Patrick had to write a feature-length film for which he got an A. On Friday, May 3, 1996, Patrick went out with his friend, Michael Park, to celebrate the end of semester. They returned to Patrick's dorm room and watched a movie before Michael left around 3:45 a.m. This would be the last time Patrick was seen alive. Weekend went by and Patrick did not call his mother, which was unusual as he would regularly call her mother every weekend. Meanwhile, at around 1 a.m. on Sunday, May 5th, a pedestrian was a victim of a motorcycle accident along the Avenida International in Tijuana, Mexico. The man was critically injured and was taken to the nearby hospital, but died 6 days after the accident. Since the man did not carry any identification, police were unable to identify him, and he was classified as desconocido, or unknown. His photo was published in the newspapers, and he was incorrectly identified as Luis Rodriguez. Now, when Patrick did not call Terry on the weekends and calls to his phone went unanswered, Terry called Patrick's friend Michael to check up on Patrick. Michael went to Patrick's room, but Patrick was not there. His wallet along with his bags and clothes were still in the room, although his passport was missing. Michael also noticed a message from Patrick's bank on his answering machine asking him to call them back. Michael notified Terry and she called the bank. She learned that Patrick's bank account had been overdrawn and there had been several ATM transactions, all of which took place in Mexico over the weekends. According to the bank records, Patrick withdrew $60 from a 7-Eleven in San Clemente, California at around 10:24 a.m. on Saturday, May 4th. On the same day at 6:08 p.m., another withdrawal of $135 was made at a bank ATM in Tijuana, Mexico. The next day on Sunday, May 5th, 3 additional withdrawals totaling $114 were made at an ATM in downtown Tijuana until his bank account was $17 overdrawn. Worried, Terry reported Patrick missing. Patrick was a Canadian citizen and a permanent resident of California, so Terry reported him missing to the Canadian embassies in Mexico and to Canada's Department of Foreign Affairs in Ottawa, but she never heard anything from them. She then decided to hire a private investigator, Doug Roth, to track down Patrick. Doug went to the San Clemente 7-Eleven convenience store, where Patrick made his first withdrawal. He asked the owner to check CCTV footage. In the CCTV footage, Patrick can be seen entering the store at around 10:02 a.m. The CCTV footage also captured another man entering the store moments later. The man tried to communicate with Patrick and followed him out of the store. It seemed the two were together. This man has yet to be identified. Doug then decided to continue south towards Mexico. On May 20th, along the way, he checked the parking lots along the border, hoping to find Patrick's car. Many tourists leave their vehicles at these parking lots before going to Mexico. Doug showed the photo of Patrick's car to the parking lot attendants, and one of them recognized the car that was still in his parking lot. The car was parked at the back fence and was caked with mud. The car's front bumper was damaged, and the rear license plate was loose. Looking inside, Doug noticed the driver's seat was too close to the steering wheel, suggesting that someone else had driven it. As Patrick was a tall guy at 6'1", and it's unlikely that he would have kept the seat that close to the steering wheel. Doug also found a partially smoked cigarette in the ashtray of the car, but Patrick never smoked, and he never let anyone smoke inside his car. Checking the radio, Doug found it to be tuned to a Spanish-American radio station, which Patrick would have never listened to. Doug then gave Patrick's photo to the lot manager who offered to help him. The lot manager gave the photo to his girlfriend who lived in Tijuana. She distributed his photo to the police stations, hospitals, and morgues. Soon she found Patrick's body in a morgue. Patrick had been incorrectly identified as Luis Rodriguez, the man that was the victim of the motorcycle accident. Terry traveled to Tijuana and conclusively identified the body belonging to her son. According to Mexican police, all of his possessions, including his ATM card, his Canadian passport, his car keys, his clothing, were missing. When asked, Mexican authorities gave conflicting reports about Patrick's death. At first, they said Patrick was hit by a car. They later changed it and said he was a passenger on a motorcycle which struck a pedestrian and was then thrown into the path of an oncoming car. Then they said that he was a passenger on a motorcycle which hit a pothole and was thrown off the motorcycle. According to current official reports, at approximately 1 a.m. on May 5th, a motorcyclist named Tony Wara was heading east along the Avenida International when two pedestrians suddenly ran in front of the street. The motorcyclist lost control and hit Patrick, critically injuring him. Patrick was taken to the hospital but died 6 days later. According to Tony, he had no idea who he had hit and couldn't confirm if it really was Patrick. Tony does not know what happened to the second pedestrian, as after the accident, he and his passenger both were unconscious and only regained consciousness in the hospital. Two witnesses also said they saw the motorcyclist hit Patrick, although one of them would later say that he did not see the victim's face and could not be sure if it was Patrick. It is unclear why Patrick was misidentified as Luis Rodriguez. His photo was published in the newspaper with details as 5 feet 5 inches, 27 years old, obese, wearing a blue t-shirt and white tennis shoes. In actuality, Patrick was 6 feet 1 and 200 pounds, wearing a tan t-shirt and black Vans shoes. The clothes he was wearing were destroyed at the hospital. Mexican authorities say the misidentification was an honest mistake. However, more inconsistencies led Doug and Terry to suspect cover-up. According to Mexican authorities, Patrick's injuries was due to the accident. However, when Doug viewed Patrick's body, he noticed injuries to his face and upper body. He believed Patrick was severely beaten. Terry asked the LA coroner's office to perform an autopsy on her son, but they refused as it was out of their jurisdiction. Terry then hired an independent pathologist who performed an autopsy on Patrick and concluded that the findings do not support the conclusion that death was due to a motor vehicle accident. Later, the LA coroner's office agreed to do the autopsy if Terry paid for it. According to this autopsy, Patrick could have been in the motor vehicle accident. However, without accompanying accident scene reports, they weren't sure. The autopsy results did state that the autopsy results from the Mexican authorities were inaccurate. Patrick did not have a ruptured spleen, broken ribs, fractured skull, or died from a septic shock. The LA coroner's office did not believe Patrick's injuries were fatal. Another strange fact was that Patrick was still in the hospital on May 5th at around 5 p.m. when his ATM card was used to withdraw cash 3 times until it was overdrawn. Only Patrick knew the PIN number to his card, and it is unlikely that he would have given his PIN to anyone willingly. Another suspicious fact was that the parking lot's records showed that Patrick's car had been driven out of the parking lot by someone after paying a $60 fee. This was on May 15th, 4 days after Patrick died in the hospital. The car was returned to the same spot the next day and stayed there until Doug found it on May 20th. The LAPD agreed to do limited forensic analysis of Patrick's car and found what appeared to be blood splatters on the driver's side door. However, they refused to test it as Patrick died in Mexico, and it was out of their jurisdiction. Terry contacted Canada's Department of Foreign Affairs, but they said they could not do anything as it was out of their jurisdiction. Doug believes Patrick went to Tijuana with another individual and met some unsavory characters. They probably took Patrick as a hostage and beaten him until he gave his PIN number. Patrick likely escaped and was running for his life when he was struck and killed by the motorcycle. The U.S. and Canadian authorities have refused to look into the case as it is out of their jurisdiction, while Mexican authorities stick to the accident story. One of the Tijuana police operatives said any official inconsistencies reflect confusion, not a whitewash. This was not a homicide. That is a figment of the private investigator's imagination. He is putting ideas into the family's head to make money. When Terry had contacted Canada's Department of Foreign Affairs, they advised her not to push forward as the Mexican authorities could smear Patrick's name. According to a diplomat, police informally alleged that Patrick was involved in narcotics trafficking. However, they have dropped the issue. Terry has fought tooth and nail to find answers, but Patrick's mysterious death remains unsolved for more than 25 years. Patrick's case remains unsolved to this day, leaving his family without closure. What do you think happened to Patrick Sean Kelly? Was it a tragic accident, or was there a cover-up? We'd love to hear your thoughts, so leave your theories in the comments below. Don't forget to like, share, and subscribe to Criminologist for more deep dives into unsolved mysteries. Hit the notification bell so you never miss an episode. Let's keep this conversation alive. Patrick deserves justice. Thanks for watching, and we'll see you next time on Criminologist.